Hello fam, welcome to another tutorial on this channel. So in today's tutorial, we are going to look at how to model this basketball pitch. So we'll be starting from the modeling. We are going to look at how to model our pitch and the basketball, and then we'll move on to texturing and then lighting, and then we're also going to look at how to render. We are going to look at how to create this beautiful render of our basketball here. So make sure to like and subscribe, and then you can leave your comments in the comment section below in case you have any questions. So let's jump right into the tutorial. So we start on a fresh scene, select everything within, and then delete with X, and then enable my shortcut keys. Okay, so I want to bring in our reference. Shift A, and then we go to image and then mesh plane, and then I want to select our reference we'll be using, which is this. We want to see our measurements on it, so let's come to this place and then change it to texture. You can see the measurements you want to use. So for the length of this, the length of our pitch is 94 feet, and then the width is 50 feet. Okay, so we're going to scale it in real life, so we're going to be using real life scaling for our modeling. So let's change the sizes. So we want to change this from meter to feet. So you can come to this scene properties here, go to units, change from metric to imperial. You can see that you have feet, so now you are calculating the feet. So the X will be 94 on the X axis, and then the Y is going to be 50. No, not there, here, 50. And we now have our rescale. So we want to reset this scale, so Control A and then apply a scale. So let's duplicate, Shift D and duplicate the ground, and just right click to maintain the position. Then scale it S and then 2 to scale it to this size. But we don't need this texture over here, so we'll come to this texture tab over here and delete our texture from it. So you come to this minus here and then remove the texture, and you have to create a hole here so that it doesn't distract our cut. So let's go to the edit mode. We press I to insert, and then what we want to do is we go to the snap properties here. We're going to enable the snapping, then we're going to change it to vertex mode. So we select this vertex, move it to this corner of our basketball cut, select this vertex, move it to this corner. So we're going to move it to the corner. So it's going to snap on the vertices, and then select the face and then delete X to delete faces. Okay, so it's perfectly aligned. So that's it for our cut. So next we're going to model our hoop, basketball hoop, and the net and the backboard. So we're going to bring in our references we'll be using for that. So come to the top right corner here, and then let's divide our scene, then change this to the image editor, and then open your image that you want to use. So all the images, there are references in the description below, so you can use those images. You can download it and use it. So let's divide here once more, and then we could also bring in the second reference I want to be using. So this is our references I want to be using. So Shift A, and then let's bring in our cube to start modeling with. So you can use your number pad / key to isolate so that you don't distract yourself with our basketball cut. So for this, I want to scale it on the Y axis 72 inches, and then the Z axis or the Z axis 42 inches. So we are still working in feet, so we want to go back to our scene here and then change it from feet to inches. Okay, so the Y is going to be 72 inches, and then the Z axis is going to be 42 inches. And then we can change this X to 3 inches. Okay, so after we're done with that, we reset the scale. So Control A, then apply scale, and then Shift G to duplicate. We're going to model this one in the middle, so 24 inches on the Y axis, and then 18 inches on the Z axis, 8. And then Control A to apply scale. So let's select this again. Let's select this one, and then tab into the edit mode, and then go to wireframe. Then let's select the front and the back faces. Make sure the two faces are selected. We are going to create this frame around the board. So you can see it's 3 inches wide. So we just press I to insert, then 3 to make it 3 inches. And then let's go to the front view, and then Alt E, extrude along my mouse. You can hold down Shift and then pull it just inwards a little bit. And then let's select this small one too. Make sure we select only the front and back. Then we can see that the width here is 2 inches. So I and then 2, scale it in 2 inches. And then for this one, what you're going to do is you're going to right click, and then this loop tools here, we're going to select the bridge. So you see it connects the two faces and make a hole in between. So if you don't see this option, you can come to the edit preferences, and then you go to your add-ons and then search for loop tools and make sure it's enabled. So that's how you get, if you right click, the loop tools will be here. Okay, so that's it for our the backboard. Okay, you can go to the front view and then go to the edit mode, and then select this back vertices and then move it forward a bit. Move it forward. You haven't selected everything and move it just a bit forward so that you can see the separation between the two. So that's it. You can join it, select and shift select the other one, and then Control D to join the two. And now I want to model a hoop. So shift A and then bring in your cylinder. So for our hoop, the size of our hoop is 18 inches. So I want to scale it down to 18 inches. Select everything and then change it to 18. So that's the size of our hoop. And then I want to change the z-axis to 0.63 inches. 0.63 inches. Then let's apply the scale. Let's move it forward a bit. Now you can go to edit mode, select the faces, these two faces, and then I to insert, and then I want to insert 0.63 inches. Okay, then left click, bridge faces to create a hole in it, and then I want to make this holder over here. So let's go to the top view and then go wireframe, select these four faces, 1, 2, 3, 4 faces, and then I want to extrude it out 6 inches. So E to extrude and then 6 to extrude it out 6 inches. And then let's go to vertex mode, select this. We want to straighten this out. So select this vertex, shift S, and then move cursor to selected. And then select everything again. And then we're going to change our pivot point to this 3D cursor so that we don't lose our length after we flatten it out. So use the period key on your keyboard, then change the pivot point to 3D cursor. Press S to scale and then X to scale on the X axis, and then 0 to flatten everything out. So that's it. So now let's make the net. Let's create our net. Control R to add an edge loop. So you can disable this snapping so that we don't worry ourselves in the process. And then Shift D, duplicate the edges. And then without deselecting it, press P to separate. Then choose separate by selection. And then go to your object mode, select this vertices we just separated, tab into the edit mode, and then A to select everything. So let's go to the front view. So we're going to extrude this out for our net. So you can extrude it 18 inches out. So E and then extrude the Z-axis, and then type in 18 to extrude it 18, but it's going the wrong direction. So you just add minus to change it to the opposite direction, and then click to accept. Let's scale it down a bit, but we don't want to scale on our 3D cursor. So press period and then change the median point. Now you can scale it down, and then add another edge loop, scale it down, and then Control B to bevel. You can scroll up our mouse, middle mouse, to add more loops like this. Okay, so that's the shape we need. So what we're going to do next is we are going to add some modifiers to create this net. So the first modifier we're going to add is the decimate modifier. Add modifier and then decimate. So you can go to the wireframe to see the effect, and then you come to this unsubdivided and then change the iterations to 1 so that we get this pattern. So you can apply it by holding down Control A to apply, and then we're going to add our second modifier, which is the wireframe modifier, to create the mesh. And then let's reduce the thickness for it all the way down. Okay, and then you can go back to the edit mode, select this down vertices, X, and then delete edges to get our effect. So that's it for our basket or our net. Yeah. So let's come back to this hoop, and then let's add subdivision modifier to this. Add it to the levels to 2. Go back to edit mode, and then let's tighten up these edges over here. Add one edge loop here, and then add another one in the middle. That's it. Just right click and shape smooth. So that's it for our net and our hoop. So we can select the two and then front view and then move it back a bit so that we put it on our, make it fit on our backboard. Move it back a bit. just like so. And then maybe you can model this small supporter over here, shift A, and then bring in your cube. And then I think the net should come down a bit. So let's delete this for now. Then let's bring down the net and the hoop. Go to the front view, or go to the side view, number 3 to go to your side view. Then move down your net somewhere like this. Okay, perfect. Let's move it up a bit. Okay, so now you can add a cube and then go to the edit mode and then scale everything down and just place it somewhere roughly around here. Scale everything down. Put it here. Yeah, roughly around this side like this. And then move this one to up a bit. And then we can move this one to in a bit. So give it some effect. Okay. So that's it for our hoop. Let's select it and then from the top view, you can scale it inwards to match the length or the width of our hoop. Okay, so that's it. And then now what we're going to model next is our holder that is holding this backboard here. So we're going to add another references for that one. So for that one, we can now come. So before we even model that one, let's place this hoop and net in the right place where we need to put them. So let's go back. You can press numpad/key to go back to your cut. So normally this hoop is 10 feet higher from the ground, our basketball cut. So what we are going to do is we are going to add a cube, shift A to add a cube. And then with this cube, we are going to scale it 10 feet tall. So we use it as our gauge. So let's change it to feet. And then let's change this z-axis to 10 feet. Then we can change this one to something like that. And then we move it onto our ground plane like this. So we know this is 10 feet high. Then we can select our objects. So we can deselect these objects. We don't need to select them. Then move everything on the x-axis. Go to the top view. So move everything on the x-axis somewhere here. Then go to your front view. So we're going to deselect the cube and then move our hoop up to the level of our cube that we scaled. So you know our hoop is roughly 10 feet above the ground, since we are using real life scaling. Okay, so something like this, and we can delete our cube. So X to delete. And then let's place our hoop correctly where it's supposed to be. So we can move it on the x-axis and place it roughly on this cube. So this hoop can match our circle here. So that's where we need it. So now let's model this holder. What is holding our hoop? We're going to bring in references for that. So we can come to this place and then add our reference image. Add our reference images that we are going to be using. Okay. And for the one that we'll be modeling, we'll add another reference image. So you can use the numpad/key to isolate this. You can go to the front view. So shift A to bring in our reference image and then reference. And then we're going to bring in this image. So let's move it here. And then we're going to scale it to roughly match the size of our hoop. So let's move it somewhere here. Go to the wireframe mode. You see our image is a bit bigger, so we can scale it down a bit to roughly match our model. Okay, so something like this is good. So before I start modeling, let's reduce the opacity of this. It's too bright, so that you see what you are doing properly. So come to the image and check the opacity and then reduce it to 0.5. Okay, so now I can bring our cube. Bring me your cube. Now let's move it here. Okay, so you can go to the edit mode and then start modeling. Just try to match our reference as close as possible. Just try to match our references as close as possible. Select this and then grab G2 grab and then move it here. Scale it down a bit. No, let's just move this one here instead of scaling. And then extrude, E to extrude, and then Z to move freely, and then rotate to roughly match our reference. E to extrude and then Z to roughly match. So we're just going to make a very simple model. E to extrude Z and then click and then scale it on the Z axis and then 0 to flatten it out.
Okay, so you can select this one too, then move it up a bit. Then you can select here and then move it down a bit. And then I want to add an edge loop over here, and then I want to select the vertices here, and then Alt E and then extrude along my mouse. And then let's just match it up with our reference. Just match it up roughly with our reference. Okay. For this side, so you can go to face select mode and then select these faces. Shift D and then Alt S to scale it up a bit. Then you can bring it down. And then you can use Ctrl R or just leave it like that. So now we can model this bottom holder over here. So for that one, let's go to our side view, number 3. Select everything and then let's scale it to match our hoop. So let's go to the top view, scale everything on the y-axis until we match the width of our hoop. Okay, so something like this is good. Let's go back to our side view and then select these vertices. Shift D to duplicate and then scale it. So after I duplicate, you can scale it out. And then we want to extrude this out, so let's bring in this reference also. So let's extrude it out. So first we want to straighten out, so S and the scale on the Z-axis and then 0 to flatten everything out. So you can select everything and then just flatten it out. And now extrude. E to extrude and then scale it 5 and then scale it 1.5 and then E to extrude and then scale it 1.5, or I think we didn't extrude. E to extrude, then S to scale 1.5, then E to extrude 5, no, it should be 2, and just roughly match the reference. We don't really need to use measurements, any kind of measurements, we just need to roughly match our references. So that's it. That's basically it. Go to the front view and then straighten these ones out. Nothing too much. Select everything. Sorry, select this. Move it on the x-axis. And straighten it out more. Then select everything. Move it back a bit. Okay, so that's it for our holder. So that's all we need to do for our holder. So you can hide this reference. You don't need it anymore. You can permanently hide it. So let's add subdivision modifier for this. Before we add subdivision, let's first add bevel modifier. You can change the segments to 3, and then you can also change the amount of the bevel if you want. And let's add a subdivision modifier. And let's increase it to 2 and then shade smooth. That's all for it. And then you can add another bevel modifier for this back hoop. Bevel. That's it. And then I think we can also add a bevel modifier for this. Maybe 3. Sorry. We change the amount. And then we can shade smooth. You can still reduce the amount here. Okay, so that's it for our hoop. So what we're going to do next is we have to select everything and then move it into a collection. And to move it into a new collection, you can name it hoop. So we move it into the hoop collection. So we can go back to our scene /key. So we want to mirror this hoop over here to the other side of our basketball court. So what we are going to do is, with these collections that I've created, we are going to duplicate our collection. I make sure that we're going to duplicate it linked. But before we duplicate, let's go to our top view and then make sure this 3D cursor is in the center. So Shift C and then cursor to world origin. And then we change the pivot point to the 3D cursor. So we are going to scale this and mirror it on the other side of our cut. So with this selection, with this collection, just right click and then duplicate linked. We don't duplicate collection, we duplicate linked. So the reason why we duplicate linked is because we want any changes we make to these items here affect these ones, so that we don't need to do it for both. So that's why we use the duplicate link. So double click and then select everything and then scale on the x-axis and then -1 to mirror it to the other side. So that's all for now. So the next thing I want to model is our basketball itself. So Shift A to bring in your cube, and then you can isolate it with number slash. So let's add subdivision modifier to our cube, change it to 2, and then let's apply it. Let's go to edit mode, wireframe, and then select these vertices, X to delete vertices. Then go to the top view, select these vertices, S to delete vertices. So we are left with this quarter part of our cube. That's what we're using for the modeling. So go back to the object mode and then add your mirror modifier and enable XYZ and then enable clipping. I think we deleted some parts that we shouldn't have deleted. So let's go back, undo. So we don't have to select the middle ones here. So we just need to select these ones and then delete. Then go back to the top view, select this and then delete vertices. Object mode, add the mirror modifier, then XYZ enabled, and then clipping also enabled. So we go back to the edit mode, and then we are going to use our knife tool. So you press K on your keyboard to bring the knife tool up, then click on these vertices, click on this vertex, and then connect it with this edge and click. And then after you're done, press the keyboard spacebar to accept. So we can go back to our object mode and then apply our mirror modifier. And then we can add another subdivision surface and then apply it. And then go back to the edit mode. So you can see it's not perfectly round. So we want to make sure that we have a very round circle. So what we can do is select everything and then hold down your Shift and Alt key and then press S. Then type 1 to make sure that everything has been changed to a perfect sphere. So that's all we need to do. And then after that, you select these edges or vertices. Select these edges around. And then select these middle edges also. So I'm going to bevel, Control B to bevel. So while you're beveling, you can add more look cuts by scrolling up or down. So let's add 3 look cuts. Can't tell why this is in there. So Control B to bevel. And then let's add 3 look cuts, 1, 2, 3 in the middle. And then click to accept. Then we're going to select this middle look cuts you have in the middle. Select it all around like this. Then enable your proportional editor. And then Alt S to scale. But before you scale, make sure that you scroll up your mouse wheel to reduce the size of our proportional editing and then scale it down just a bit. So we get this pattern, this texture. We can now add our subdivision modifier, change it to 2, and then right click and shape smooth. And we have our basketball. So that's it. That's basically what we need to create. So we can go back to our scene. And then let's change the size of our basketball to a real life or a real size of a basketball. So the diameter of a basketball is 29.5 inches. So that's the full diameter of it. So we're going to divide it by 3 to get our round shape. So let's change it to inches, from feet to inches, and then let's change our size. So 29.5 divided by 3. And then this is our size that we need to use. And then we're going to apply scale. Don't forget, go to the front view and then move it up onto your ground plane. So that's it. We have our pitch and we have our basketball model, and we also have our hoops that we are going to dunk the basketball in it. So we're done with the modeling. The next one is texturing. So we're going to continue with the texturing in the next video. I think the video is quite long, so we have to continue it on our next video. So catch you on the next video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more educative content if you want to learn more on Blender. So catch you.